Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We have finally made it to track 12 on This Place Will Become Your Tomb, the final track. It is called Missing Limbs, and we will go ahead and jump right in from the beginning. We've got the visualizer again for this one. Make sure I drag it all the way to the start, and let's go.
Just to let me know if nowadays the outer rounds of heaven don't keep up on the charm offensive anymore, failing to remind you what you're living for. And I'd give anything to borrow your indifference. I'd drink you in to temper your belief in all my promises, to swallow my desire and choke on it.
So this is very just raw here. After the crazy production that was the last song, with all the effects and all the instrumentation, we're left with this very intimate song here at the end. So far it really just does sound like Vessel sitting in a room playing guitar in front of a mic. There's very little production going on, and yeah, it's just such a personal, intimate moment here.
To swallow my desire and choke on it, 'cause it still makes my blood run cold to remember what they did before, the stories that you never told to me. Oh, but worry not, the blessings rain like battles in the heavens lost, and my polite advances won't last for long. The eager apprehension is wearing off.
So we're building here, we've got some piano coming in, just big chords to fill it in. And his singing is getting more aggressive here. It's less whispery than it was, just to kind of build this.
Apprehension is wearing off. I'd give anything to balance your conviction with certainty, to fall asleep without you lying next to me, to sever my connection with everything, 'cause it still makes my blood run cold to remember what I did before, the stories that you never told to me.
Oh, man.
And it still makes my blood run thin to remember what you are to him. And I live like I've got missing limbs for you.
That's just a rough course to get through. His delivery here is just so full of emotion that I feel like a lot of singers really strive for, but Vessel portrays perfectly here. We hear him kind of hit that like hiccup right before you start to sob in that line, what you are to him. And he's also got this part where he's just like, when he says missing limbs, it's like he's gritting his teeth. You can hear it. You can almost see his face, even though we don't know what his face looks like, right? Straining. Man. For such a simple song, he puts so much into it.
And I live to remember what you are to him. And I live like I've got missing limbs for you.
The ending always gives me chills here too, because it just the production that is on this track is in that last little fade out, right? Where it just sounds like you've got this big echoey something going on, almost like someone's screaming underwater is kind of what I feel like. Or like an alarm going off. And it sounds like water rushing in to me. And I've always associated this last little bit with sinking so deep that whatever connection you have left, whatever signal you're trying to send to the surface is just snuffed out. And of course, the screen fades to black here too, which I think is indicative of this. Man, I really love this song, especially because I feel like there was a maybe this will be a hot take. I feel like there was a missed opportunity on Sundowning. If you go back and listen to that album, in the last song, Bloodsport. I love the song. However, when they did the Room Below version, if you end up looking that up, it is a stripped down version with him just on piano, and I think that would have been a better ending to Sundowning than the full album version of Bloodsport. So I'm really glad for this album they decided to really just take the feeling of Bloodsport, the stripped down version, and make another song like it that leaves us on this melancholy, just depressing note. I think it's okay to end an album like this. It doesn't have to be cathartic. Obviously, he's trying to get the point across that he's sunk to the deepest part of whatever's going on here. And we get some clue to that with this 10,924 meter depth marker. We're the deepest we've ever been with this song. And if you're curious, I put that into Google just to see what comes up. And we get some results for Mariana Trench, which is the deepest part of the ocean. So this thematically makes sense why this would be where we end up on the album. The deepest that we can possibly go, or the deepest we've ever measured as human beings. So before I move on to analyzing these lyrics, which I think are beautiful and heartbreaking all at the same time, you might ask the question with this album, well, what the heck is even going on, right? What's really going on? And if you know anything about Sleep Token lore, I would say that on Sundowning, before we even get to this album, we've established two characters. We have Vessel, who is our vocalist, and we have Sleep. Now, Sleep is a little bit harder to define, but I believe that Sleep is someone that Vessel has lost. Maybe a loved one that he has lost, an ex-partner, something like that. And I don't think that he's just lost them as in they've broken up. I think that she is no longer living. And anytime we hear him talk about her, he's referencing him visiting Sleep. Because in the Sleep Token lore, to me, there's a very clear divide, and this is established really well in Sundowning if you go back and listen to it, between day and night for him. I believe that he can only visit Sleep at night, which would make sense thematically with why it's called that, right? And he's imagining this other person. He's trying to keep them around even though they're gone. And it's not always the perfect embodiment of what that person was. He starts to kind of keep them around and map his feelings onto her in a way that isn't healthy. And I think we kind of see the culmination of this at the start of This Place Will Become Your Tomb with Atlantic, which seems to be a guilt-driven suicide attempt by Vessel. Now, the rest of the album, I think, is the fallout of this. Vessel is wrestling with being drawn in by Sleep. It gives him some kind of comfort from the waking world, which is becoming more and more difficult to deal with. So he would rather be hypnotized by her, be drawn in by her, spend more time with her. But I think something else is also happening. I think Vessel himself in this album is splitting right down the middle. And what I mean by that is if you go and look at songs like Fall For Me and Distraction, and even Like That, Those songs seem to be critical of sleep's role in Vessel's life. And I think with lyrics like I'm broken into fractions, um, even in Fall For Me, it says something about a fractured existence, right? I think it's more than just the difference between night and day for Vessel. I think there's another persona coming out of Vessel that wants to fight back against sleep, that realizes that this is going to be death for him if he gives in to sleep. And I think High Water, the last song we listened to, is that part of Vessel admitting that they've lost, that they're going to fall into sleep. Sleep is going to invade Vessel and become who he is for a little while. And then we get Missing Limbs here. Now, if we dig into this, I used to think this song was very clearly kind of like Vessel talking about a breakup, but I actually think that this song makes a lot of sense if we imagine that it's being sung from the perspective of the part of Vessel that wants to fight, talking to the part of Vessel that has given up. Because I think when we get things like heaven, when we're talking about heaven, I think we're talking about sleep and nighttime and that kind of thing. So what he's saying is, just let me know, nowadays the outer rounds of heaven don't keep up the charm offensive anymore, failing to remind you what you're living for. I think he's begging the other part of himself to say, hey, this is not what it's cracked up to be. You're going to see this. Just let me know whenever you are ready to fight, and I'll be here. And this is the part of him that wants to fight, saying he wishes that he could borrow the indifference of the part of him that is falling under sleep's influence. And he's remembering, right? His loved one that he's lost in the chorus. But I think the second verse, despite the depressing nature of this song, is actually a little bit hopeful, because it says, the blessings rain on battles in the heaven's arms, and my polite defenses won't last for long. The eager apprehension is wearing off. I think this is saying that his sinking is not going to last forever. He's saying there will be a day I fight, and it's going to be soon, but for now, I have to admit defeat. He's biding his time. And then there is the, I'd give anything to balance your convictions with certainty, to fall asleep without you lying next to me, to sever my connection with everything. I mean, I think this is pretty self-explanatory, right? He wishes to be free of sleep and this other part of himself that wants to be with sleep all the time. And the part of the song that really solidifies to me that this is what's going on is actually the last line. Now, I think a lot of people, when they read this last line, are assuming that this song is about a breakup, right? Specifically because of the lyrics, it still makes my blood run thin to remember what you are to him. Now, this really does sound, to me on first listen, I understand how you might think this, right? That we're talking about Vessel being in love with someone who is actually now with someone else. But what I think is happening here is, if we think about this as the part of Vessel that wants to fight sleep, and the part of Vessel that is like giving into sleep. This line, to remember what you are to him, you is him referencing sleep, and him is referencing Vessel, the part of Vessel that has given up, basically given up. And it's Vessel basically mourning the thought that sleep has become everything to him, right? That he's completely drawn into this depression, into this part of his life where night is everything. It's like he's just not even there during the day. He's just living to be with her. And he's mourning this idea. And he says, I'll live like I've got missing limbs for you. And I think this finally gives us the impression at the very end that he really is split in two, right? that there's parts of him that even during the day are missing, that are staying behind to be with sleep. And this really, while it has a slight uplift of like maybe he's going to fight back soon, as for now, he's just biding his time, being lost. He'd rather live his life beholden to sleep with this person that he's lost rather than actually live the waking life that he experiences during the day. Which this is some heavy stuff, and I think it is why it's why the song is so raw. But the beautiful thing about Sleep Token is maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you actually think that this is more straightforward than that. Um, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this song and this album as a whole. I will be moving on to doing Take Me Back to Eden, which a lot of my takes here are actually informed by Take Me Back to Eden, the references in that album and the context of it. So if you haven't listened to it, I'd say go give it a shot if you want to go listen to it. If not, I will be doing it so you can experience it as I kind of go through it as well if you'd rather wait for that. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this deep dive, no pun intended, into This Place Will Become Your Tomb. And I'll see you whenever I pick up the first song of Take Me Back to Eden on the next video, Chokehold.